Good morning, and thank you for bearing with us with a slight delay getting started. So happy to be celebrating with you this morning, Shabbat, and Zev Wacks becoming Bar Mitzvah. So for those of you who do not have your own Siddur, your own prayer book, there is a link that I believe is or will shortly be in the comments section in our YouTube stream that you can click on to find a PDF of our live stream and of our Siddur. And so you're welcome to either follow along in that or just let the experience wash over you. We're going to start on page 151, setting an intention for our practice this morning, which our sages say is the prerequisite for all prayer. The intention of Leviticus 19:18, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And this morning, as in every morning, I encourage us to ask ourselves, how is my self-love this morning? And who is my neighbor? And how can I aspire towards fulfilling this intention? We'll sing from the second line down in the Hebrew. Hineni mochan umezuman lekabel alai mitzvat aseh ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha ve'ahavta kamocha. Hineni mochan umezuman lekabel alai mitzvat aseh ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha ve'ahavta kamocha. Hineni mochan umezuman lekabel alai mitzvat aseh ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha ve'ahavta kamocha. And sealing that intention with one more deep breath, we are ready to move into our prayer service. But first, a few words of orientation. Those of you who are watching from a distance know you are so welcome with us this morning. This is both a unique family celebration and our regular Shabbat morning prayer service that we do every week. I encourage you from wherever you are to participate in whatever way you can. I know we have people from all over. We have folks from the Netherlands joining us. Welcome. Desde Rosario, Argentina y Oviedo, Spain, España. Bienvenidos. Estoy muy alegre que estén con nosotros. We hope that you'll join us in making community in the remote ways that we can. There will be points throughout the service where I will ask a question and really welcome you to share an answer in the chat so that the family can go back and see after the service what you all had to say and how you all had to chime in. So we have a small minyan, a small quorum for prayer here in the room, and we'll make do with what we can. I invite Catherine and David, Zev's parents, to come forward and present Zev with his talit, his prayer shawl.
Zev, we're really happy to present you with this talit. This is a gift from your grandparents, Jerry Wacks and Sue Wacks, and we're very happy to present it to you on the day of your bar mitzvah. I hope you get a lot of use out of it, and it gives you great pride and joy to wear it. You want to take one of them?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef batzitzit.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. We give thanks for arriving at this moment. And we continue in our service, page 153, noticing the small quotidian blessings that we otherwise might take for granted, might not bother to notice, as caught up as we can be in our bigger questions, our bigger anxieties. So please sing with me. We'll sing in the Hebrew and the English on the opposite pages. So we're on, if you're following and wanting to look at the English, it's the even numbered pages, starting on page 152. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who removes sleep from my eyes and slumber from my eyelids. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who gives the bird of dawn discernment to tell day from night. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who stretches forth the earth upon the waters. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who makes the blind to see. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who clothes the naked. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who makes the captive free. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who raises up the humble. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who makes firm a person's steps. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who acts for all my needs. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who girds Israel with strength. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who crowns Israel with splendor. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who made me in your image. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who made me free. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who made me of the people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Chei ha'olamim, who gives strength to the weary. And on pages 162, 163, we take a moment to ourselves to give thanks for the miracle of having a working body. Especially this year, we have learned not to take that for granted. So I encourage you either to read to yourself this prayer in the Hebrew or in the English, or if you're less inclined to read, to just take a moment and look at your own hands and contemplate the miracle of blood pumping, circulation happening, and here we are. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Adonai, rofei chol basar, umafli lasot. Blessed are you, miraculous, wondrous healer of all flesh. And on page 165, we give thanks for our pure souls, no matter what anxieties or resentments accrue to us. Our tradition teaches us that at our core, we are completely pure and we can awaken each morning making different choices, renewed and ready to face the day with purity. Eloheinu neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi Eloha tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Baruch atah Adonai, asher biado nefesh kol chai, veruach kol basar. Page 170, please read with me for the gift of Torah. Transmit to us, wise one, our God, your Torah's words into our mouths and to the mouths of all the house of Israel who called you kin. May we and our children and all the children of your people, the house of Israel, all of us, be knowers of your name and learners of your Torah for its sake alone. Blessed are you, the sage, who teaches Torah to your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, hamelamed Torah le'amo Yisrael. And we widen our perspective now as we turn to the Psalms of Psuke de Zimra, page 177, giving thanks for the glory of the whole world. So those of you turning in remotely, I ask you just, where are you and what do you notice about the world? Please share, if you will, in the chat, a small observation about the world around you, what you see if you look up from the screen or look out your window, so that when the family looks later, they can get a glimpse, a sense of what all of us are experiencing, and you can know what each other are experiencing right now. Here we see gray skies and a really happy family, and trees that mostly have the leaves fallen, and a sense of impending rain in the air. Page 177, above and below the lines. Baruch Shamar v'haya ha'olam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Oseh v'reishit, Baruch Omer ve'oseh. Blessed is the one who spoke and the world became. Blessed is the one, blessed is God's name. Baruch Shamar v'haya ha'olam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Oseh v'reishit, Baruch Omer ve'oseh. Baruch Gozer Mekayim, Baruch Merachim al ha'aretz, Baruch Merachim al habriot, Baruch Meshalem Sachar Tov l'Reav, Baruch Ma'avir Afela u'Mevi Ora, Baruch Chaylad v'Kayam Lanetzach, Baruch Podeh u'Matzil, Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo. Yachid Chei ha'olamim, Melech Meshubach u'Mefo'ar, Adei Ad Shemo HaGadol. Baruch atah Adonai, Melech Mehulal, Vatishbachot. page 208, 209, a psalm for Shabbat. It is good to give thanks. Why? Does God need our praise? No, we do. To awaken to wonder, to holiness, to God. It is good to give thanks, for through thanksgiving comes awakening. So as we move into singing this psalm of Shabbat, I ask you to share, what are you grateful for this morning? What are you grateful for this morning? We have in the room being together. Rest. A break from the anxious internet refreshing, screen watching. A chance to have a real live minyan in our space. And all the things you are telling us as well. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, leagid baboker chasdecha, ve'emunatecha balilot, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, leagid baboker chasdecha, ve'emunatecha balilot. Ay alay lalay, ay alay lalay, ay alay alay lalay lalay, ay alay lalay, ay alay lalay, ay alay alay lay lay lay, ay alay lalay, ay alay lalay, ay alay 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 lalay, ay alay lalay, ay alay lalay, ay alay alay ay ay. Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, leagid baboker chasdecha, ve'emunatecha balilot. Page 231, our final psalm. Hallelu, 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 el bekodsho, hallelu, birkia uzo, hallelu, vigvorotav, hallelu, kerov gudelo, hallelu, 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 beteka shofar, hallelu, benevel vechinor, hallelu, betof umachol, hallelu, beminim ve'ugav, hallelu, 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 hallelu. Hallelu, hallelu, hallelu. Hallelu, betzilzalei shama. Hallelu, betzilzalei trua. Kol haneshama, tehallelujah. Hallelu, hallelujah. Hallelu, hallelu, hallelu. Hallelu, hallelu, hallelu. Hallelu, hallelu, hallelu. Hallelu, hallelu, hallelu. Baruch Adonai leolam, amen ve'amen. Baruch Adonai mitzion, shochen Yerushalayim, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim, Elohei Yisrael oseni float levado, uvaruch Shem kevodo leolam, v'yimalech vodo et kol haaretz, amen ve'amen. Page 235, the final hymn of this section of the service, Nishmat Kol Chai, notices that every breath or every soul of every living thing is a blessing or shall be a blessing. So we'll sing this opening line and then give some silent time for contemplating that, or you're welcome to read the interpretive poem on pages 232 and 233, or the traditional liturgy going through page 241. Nishmat kol chai tevarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu. we continue on page 243. Yishtabach shimcha la'ad malkeinu Ayel hamelech hagadol v'kadosh b'shamayim u'ba'aretz Ki lechana el Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Shiru shvacha halel v'zimra Ozu memshala netzach gedula gvura tila v'tiferet Kedusha u'malchut Barachot v'hodot Me'ata ve'ad olam Baruch ata Adonai El melech gadol batishbachot El hahodot Adon haniflaot Habocher b'shirei zimra Melech Elchei ha'olamim. Page 245. Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Ve'alma divrach hirutei ve'amlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala, bagala uvizman kariv V'imeru Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam le'olmei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudsha b'richo Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran be'alma v'imeru Amen. Page 247, we stand for our official call to prayer, which is always a powerful moment in our service when we affirm that we are more than just a bunch of individuals, that we are gathered here as a community doing spiritual work together. And it's particularly special this morning because we have gotten to do this so rarely in COVID times. And it's particularly powerful, even more so this morning, because Zev, very appropriately, will be leading us in this call to prayer. So remember.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
You may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorei choshech, osei shalom, uvorei et hakol. Kol yoducha v'kol yishaku v'kol yomer kadosh k'Adonai. We continue our blessing of light and darkness, peace and all, on page 267, as we imagine ourselves part of an angelic chorus, as we imagine the world sustained by the singing of an angelic chorus, and imagine the idea that the songs of the celestial spheres are the thing that is necessary to keep this world spinning, and we join those songs ourselves. את שם האל המלך הגדול והגיבור והנורא, קדוש הוא. וכולם מקבלים עליהם עול מלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים באהבה רשות זה לזה, להקדיש ליוצרם בנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה ובנימה קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. והאופנים וחיות הקודש ברעש גדול מתנסים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. Please read below the line on page 268 with me. Every day creation is renewed. Wake up and see unfolding in the spreading light of dawn, the world and all it contains, coming into being new, fresh, filled with divine goodness and love. Every day creation is renewed. Reflected in the great lights, we see a new day, one precious day, eternity. Or Chadash, Al Zion Ta'ir, Or Chadash, Al Zion Ta'ir, Veniske Chulanu, Veniske Chulanu, Bimhera Leoro. Veniske Chulanu, Veniske Chulanu, Bimhera Leoro. Yalalai, lai, 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 lai. Yalalai, lai, lai, lai. Yalalai, lai, 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 lai. Yalalai, lai, lai. Yalalai, lai, 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 lai. Yalalai, lai, lai, lai. Yalalai, yalalai, lai. Yalalai, lai, lai. Or Chadash al Zion Ta'ir, Veniske Chulanu bimhera leoro. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. We continue on page 275, not only with our awe at the order of the universe, but our own intimate connection with that, with our own place in that order. V'ha'er einenu v'toratecha v'dabek libeinu b'mitzvotecha ve'yached levavinu le'ahava u'liyira et shemecha ve'lo nevosh ve'lo nikalem ve'lo nikashel le'olam va'ed ki v'shem kodshecha hagadol v'hanora b'hatachnu nagila v'nismecha nagila v'nismecha bishuatecha v'havienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz v'tolichenu kumamiut le'artzenu ki el poel yeshuot ata v'kiravtanu l'shimcha hagadol sela ve'emet להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. And as we turn to Shema on page 277, we gather ourselves together, either symbolized literally by the gathering of our tzitziot, of our talitot, our prayer shawls, or just taking a moment to collect ourselves into a unified whole as we prepare to proclaim the unity of God and the universe. I invite Zev to lead us in Shema.
Where do you like here?
Can you face that way and the camera will pick you up?
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha vehayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Nohi metzavecha hayom al levavecha veshinamtam levanecha vedibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvleftecha vaderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha, veshnayu letutafot beinenecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha.
We continue silently with your choice of biblical selections through page 285. Adonai Elohechem Emet. We turn to page 291. The Geula, our prayer for redemption, harkens us back to the moment after crossing the Red Sea, escaping from Egypt, bearing witness to the possibility of something that we had thought was impossible. And we sing this every service, twice a day, reminding ourselves not to assume that we know what is possible. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, osef ele, osef ele. שירה חדשה, שיבחו גאולים, לשמך על שפת הים. יחד כולם הודו, והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד. צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל, ובדרך עמך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות, שמו קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Our Amidah, our core central prayer, begins on page 295. As I discussed last night, this week's parasha contains the moment that is attributed as the beginning and the innovation of this prayer, but it's a time for whatever our deep personal meditations are. Zev will lead us in the opening blessings of the Amidah through page 305, and then we will take time for our own meditations, either with the traditional liturgy or whatever it is that you need to focus on today.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekone Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer, U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach, Umorid HaGashem, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Kol Chai, Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim, Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umkayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, umi domelach, melech meimit umchaye, umatzmiach Yeshua. Nekad v'ne'eman ata lechachayot kol chai, baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye Kol Chai.
Amen. Page 303.
Nekadesh et shimecha ba'olam, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה, ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות מלך הארץ כבודו. אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנשאים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון, בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים. ועינינו תראנה, תראתך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור.
הללויה.
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Amen. We continue silently through page 323, or with your own personal meditation. You are welcome to continue with your own meditations or join us for the closing intention, a blessing of peace, the last lines on page 323. Ose shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ose shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru Where do you want to send your prayer for peace today? Please share. Oh, and we turn to page 381. Sorry, Zev. For Kaddish Titkabal.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מהותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם לעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו תתקבל צלותון ובעלותהון דכל בית ישראל קודם אבוהון דבשמיא ואמרו יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו עושה שלום במרומיו hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru.
Amen. Yasher koach, Zev. Woo.
Wait, do I go back?
Thank you for leading us in those prayers in our Amidah.
Can I have a mask?
So beautifully as well. We turn now to our Torah service, which begins on page 383. And I invite up for the passing of the Torah, David Wacks and Catherine Gallagher, who are here in person. And I want to acknowledge in spirit how much the grandparents would love to be here. We're imagining Peggy Wacks with Stephen Whiteman right there supporting her, Jerry and Sue Wacks, and Jane and Michael Gallagher supporting Catherine. We wish you were here. We know you are here in all the ways you can be as we turn to our Torah service on page 383. So the whole family is welcome to the Bima. Eitan will open the ark. Zev will be leading us in the service. And here we are. You're going to stand here on the bima. With your siddur, because you'll need to see that. It's okay. I know, it's a lot of choreographic details to hold all at once. So we'll have you face the ark, right here in the middle, remember? Page 383, whenever you are ready.
In kamocha va'elohim Adonai, ve'ein kema'asecha, malchutcha malchut kol olamim, umemshotecha bechol dor v'dor, Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim heitiv avirtzonecha et Zion, tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, kivecha levad batachnu, melech ram venisa, Adon olam.
Page 385. Please stand as you are able as the ark is opened.
Vayehi binsoa ha'aron, vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, ve'afutsu oivecha, ve'anusu misanecha mipanecha, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udevar Adonai miYerushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah Torah. Baruch shenatan Torah Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato.
So this is the moment where we remove our Sefer Torah, our Torah scroll from the ark, and we symbolically pass it down the generations, all the way from Moshe receiving it at Mount Sinai to the moment of the final redemption, whenever that may come. But as a microcosm of that lineage, these two generations here, we know there's a third generation alive, wishing to stand with us, witnessing us via YouTube, and all the generations that it took of Jews and people joining the Jewish community to make you ready to receive Torah. So as we have discussed many times, especially given your parasha today, Zev, Torah is not always easy to understand, not always easy to draw a blessing out of it. But this is the Jewish task of remembering that we are rooted in history, that we are rooted in community that spans space with Jews all over the world and time from generation to generation. So when you accept this scroll and you hold that, that is the responsibility and the joy that you are accepting. Are you ready to do that?
Yes.
Wonderful. And is that a comfortable hold on the bottom, or would you rather reach around?
It's good.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and I'll come right here, and you two will go to the podium.
And all their children shall be taught by God, and great shall be the peace of everyone.
Humbly we give thanks for this day and for the years of growth and learning that have preceded it. Now as our child steps forward to affirm his commitment to the ideals and mitzvot of Judaism, our soul is joyful and our mind is at peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'ehyanu v'kiyanu v'hivyanu b'zman hazeh.
Amen.
Blessed is the Eternal One, our God, ruler of the universe, for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for enabling us to reach this great day.
We pray that this day's service and experience may long remain and resonate in our child's memory. May they engrave on the tablet of his heart the understanding that this day initiates an entrance into full adult participation in the Jewish community, and with it a life more committed to mitzvah, to deeds of justice and kindness, to faithful membership in the house of Israel and the greater human family.
O God, make each of us a worthy example to our children. Let nothing estrange us from them and from you, the source of all goodness and compassion. Help us again and again to renew our attachment to the covenant of Israel, to walk hand in hand with our child in the ways of righteousness and truth. Amen.
Amen. You can come give him a hug or whatever. Page 393, please repeat after Zev.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadelu l'Adonai iti, uneromema shemo yachdav.
Lecha Adonai hagedula, v'hagevura, v'hatiferet, v'hanetzach, v'hahod. Ki chol v'shamayim uvaretz, Ki chol v'shamayim uvaretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha, ve'amid na'aseh lechol erush. Ki mitzion te'etzei Torah, udvar Adonai miYerushalayim. seated.
Dan, what are we doing about sound for the Aliyah? When the family has the Aliyah and the prayer blessing? Okay. Grab that from under your chair as I pull you up.
This week's Torah portion is the fourth portion in Genesis, Vayera. It is very action-packed, and I discussed some other parts of it last night, but this morning, Zev is going to be reading for us and discussing the final chapter of the Torah portion, Genesis 22, also known as the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. He'll be reading for us in two distinct readings, beginning at the very beginning of the chapter, 22 verse 1, and there should be in the chat or in the comments a link to the text, to the Torah text, if you would like to follow along with his reading. And so it's a service to the community to read from the Torah on our behalf. It is also an honor to be called to bless the Torah reading, and if you could be here, we would be probably honoring many of you with many different readings from the Torah. We are just going to have two longer readings today, honoring first Zev's immediate family and then Zev himself. So for our first reading from the beginning of Genesis, I call up Zev's immediate family. Ya'amdu, Michael Chana, Bat Avraham Vesara, David ben Yosef Malka, Eitan ben David uMichael Chana, La'aliyah Harishona. And Zev will also be joining us chanting from the Torah. If you are following in the Eitz Chaim Chumash, the hard copy book that we use here, we're starting on page 118. And have you shown them the spot yet?
What?
Show them the spot.
Right there. Oh, you're.
I don't think that's your spot.
Wait, no, it's not.
Right here.
There it is.
There we go. Okay, so you will kiss into that spot. We'll cover this back up. Joan, can we have the dress? And one of you hold on. One of you hold on.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Will you hold this for Torah open for him?
It's right here. Vayehi achar hadvarim ha'ele veha Elohim nisa et Avraham vayomer elav Avraham vayomer hineni vayomer kachna et bincha את יחידך אשר אהבת את יצחק, ולך לך אל ארץ המוריה, והלהו שם לעולם על אחד ההרים אשר אומר אליך. וישכם אברהם בבוקר, ויחבוש את חמורו, ויקח את שני נעריו איתו, ואת יצחק בנו, ויבקע עצי עולה, ויקום וילך אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים. ביום השלישי וישא אברהם את עיניו, וירא את המקום מרחוק. ויאמר אברהם אל נעריו, שבו לכם פה עם החמור, ואני והנער נלכה עד כה, ונשתחווה ונשובה עליכם. ויקח אברהם את עצי העולה, את עצי העולה, וישם על יצחק בנו, ויקח בידו no, wait, that's not correct. את האש ואת המאכלת, וילכו שניהם יחדיו. ויאמר יצחק אל אברהם אביו, ויאמר אבי, ויאמר הנני בני, ויאמר הנה האש והעצים, ואיה הסה לעולה. ויאמר אברהם אלוהים ירא לו הסה לעולה בני, וילכו שניהם יחדיו. ויבואו אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים, ויבן שם אברהם את המזבח, ויערוך את העצים, ויעקוד את יצחק בנו, וישם אותו על המזבח ממעל לעצים. וישלח אברהם את ידו, ויקח את המאכלת לשחוט את בנו. ויקרא אליו מלאך אדוני מן השמיים, ויאמר אברהם אברהם, ויאמר הנני. ויאמר אל תשלח ידך אל הנער, ואל תעש לו מאומה, כי אתה ידעתי כי ירא אלוהים אתה, ולא הסחת את בנך את יחידך, את יחידך ממני.
So you're going to show your family where you just finished.
Right there.
This here, many.
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yakov Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel Le'ah Bilha v'Zilpah Hu Yivarich Etchem Shalu Hayom Lichvod HaMakom Lichvod HaTorah Lichvod HaShabbat Lichvod Bar HaMitzvah. May the Holy One of Blessing who blessed our ancestors bless you today who have stepped forward to Torah on this Shabbat as your beloved son/brother takes his place in the lineage of our ancestors. May you be blessed to continue to feel this support and love from your vast network of friends and family and community that you feel on this day, even though so many of them are not able to be here in person. May you know that those connections are real, even when they are virtual, that the virtual is also real. May the pride you feel in your Zev continue to grow as he continues to grow up and out and every which way. May you walk the paths of peace with our ancestors and descendants in the whole household of Israel, with our brothers and sisters in the whole household of Israel and the greater human family, and let us all say, Amen. Our next reading will pick up where Zev left off. Genesis chapter 22, verse 13. And if you lost your place following along earlier, we have another link in the chat that should take you to that very verse where we're starting. And this is the moment, the first time Zev is officially called to the Torah as a bar mitzvah, as a Jewish adult. Yamod, Yamod. Habachor bar hamitzvah, Ze'ev ben David u'Michael achana, la'aliyah hashenit aliyah hamaftira, Amed, Amed, Amed. First you're going to touch and kiss. Grab the yad. Well, sorry, you'll do it with your talit. And we'll cover. Eitan, when it's time to read, will you come around and hold this open for him again? And one of you should hold it open on this side because it's going to go into the second column.
Et Adonai Hambarach. Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Vayisa Avraham et einav, vayar vehine ayil achar ne'echaz bazvak bekarnav, vayelech Avraham vayikach et ha'ayil vayalehu le'ula tachat beno, vayikra Avraham Sham Shem hamakom hahu Adonai yireh asher yeamer ha'ayil behar Adonai yireh Vayikra malach Adonai el Avraham shenit min hashamayim Vayomer bi nishbati neum Adonai ki ya'an asher asita et hadavar hazeh velo hasachta et mincha et yachidecha. What? Oh yeah. Yitbarechu v'zarach. Wait.
Did you lose your spot?
Yeah.
You got the last word on that.
Oh. Ki varech avarechecha v'harba arbe et zarecha k'chochevei hashamayim v'chacho asher al sefat hayam ve'yirash zarecha et sha'ar oivav v'hitbarechu v'zarecha kol goye haaretz ekev asher shemata bekoli vayashov Avraham el na'arav vayakumu vayohu yachdav el ba'er shava vayisa vayeshev Avraham biver shava. Oh yeah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Siman tov v'mazel tov v'mazel tov v'siman tov, siman tov v'mazel tov v'mazel tov v'siman tov, siman tov v'mazel tov v'mazel tov v'siman tov. Yeheilanu, 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 Olecho Yisrael. Yeheilanu, Yeheilanu, Olecho Yisrael. Mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, Yeheilanu. All right, Zev, a blessing for you. And I am going to give Zev a traditional blessing. If you have a blessing for him, I invite you to write a blessing for him in the chat that he can see later. Mishaberach avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yakov v'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah Bilha v'Zilpa hu yivarech et Ze'ev ben David u'Michael Chana sha'ala hayom lichvod hamakom lichvod haTorah lichvod haShabbat kebar hamitzvah. May the Holy One of Blessing, who blessed our ancestors in sometimes real confusing ways, bless you, Zev, as you have stood up and come forward and taken hold of Torah on this day and taken your place in the lineage of those confusing ancestors. May you be blessed by your wrestling with this story. May this story continue to raise questions for you, and may your studies of this Torah continue to be something that allows you to express your full curiosity, outrage, protest at the state of the world, at the ways that we are sometimes called to be more than we think we can be, and the ways that we are called to be other than perhaps we should be. May you be blessed to continue to bring that spirit of questioning and that spirit of meeting to our community, to the Torah. May you know that you are held as you do that, and supported not only by the people who are physically here, not only by the people who wish they could be here and are tuning in virtually via live stream, but also by the whole Jewish project of which you are a part. And may you walk the paths of peace with our ancestors and descendants in the whole household of Israel, with our brothers and sisters in the whole household of Israel and the greater human family. And let us all say, Amen. We are going to do a brief prayer for healing now, and you may all briefly be seated if you would like. I will pause and read the names of those for whom I know we are praying for healing in our community. If there is anyone you would like to add, you are welcome to share their names as well. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yakov Imotenu Sarif Karachel Abel Habzilpahu Yivarech v'Yirapeh et Kol HaCholim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem lahachlimam uleharpotam lahachazikam ulahachayotam v'yishlach aleim refuah shlema min hashamayim refuat hanefesh v'refuat haguf betoch shar cholei Yisrael hashta bagala uvizman kariv v'nomar Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless and heal all those who are ill, including Julie Visner, Amalia Yehudit, Nisim Ben Chaya, Meg Gutman, Evelyn Goldenberg, Robin Groover, Tom Barkin, Sylvia Springer, Sarah Shreve, Esther Bat Ita, Cleone Agosto, Chaim Ben Salia V'Shalom, James McEllerin, Natasha Bat Lydia, Jessica Howard, Irene Noparstak, Sally Sheklow, Jill Muller, Joan Deckelbaum, Marcia Miller, Roz Slovik, Tirza Sharon Bat Michal Yosefa, June Cederbaum, Andrea Schenkman, Yentel Sora Bat Rachel, Gabe Romano, Debbie Krieger, Roger Russell, Jim Phelps, and may they be blessed with healing, a healing of body, a healing of mind, a healing of spirit, healing raining from heaven and welling up from earth and from all other sources, likely and unlikely, soon, speedily, and in our day. And let us all say, Amen. And I will call up David and Catherine to lift and dress the Torah, and Zev to lead us in Chatzi Kaddish on page 405. Ya'amod hamagbiya ta'amod hagolelet.
Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divara hirute ve'amlich malchute. B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, uvizman kariv, v'meru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach, le'olam me'amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitparar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh, v'yithalau, shemei dekudasha, richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shireta, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma, v'yimeru, amen.
Page 407. Please stand as you are able as the Sefer Torah is lifted.
Got my mask.
Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei v'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe. Ay, 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 lai. Ay, 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 lai, 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 lai. Ay, 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 lai, lai, ay, lai, lai, lai. Ay, ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, ay, lai, 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 ay, ay. Ay, 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 lai, 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 lai. Ay, ay, lai, ay, lai. Ay, ay, lai, lai, ay. Ay, 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 lai, 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 lai. Ay, ay, lai, lai. Ay, ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, ay, lai, 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 ay, lai, lai, lai. Ay, ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, ay, lai, 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 ay, ay. Ay, ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, ay, lai, ay. Ay, ay, lai, lai, ay. Ay, 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 lai, 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 lai. At this point, Zev has led us in tefillah, in prayer. He has read from the Torah for us and blessed the Torah reading. And now he is going to share with us some of his wrestling and insights from our Torah portion, from the Akedah. So Zev, I invite you to the Bima for your Devar Torah. Just drink a little water.
My parsha is Vayera, which tells the story of the family of Abraham and Sarah. I am focusing here on the Akedah, or binding of Isaac. In this section, God tells Abraham that he must sacrifice his son Isaac to them. So, Abraham brings Isaac up a mountain, telling him that they will be making a sacrifice. When they get to the mountain, Abraham is about to sacrifice Isaac, but then God calls out to Abraham and says that now they know that Abraham fears them and that he does not have to sacrifice his son. This really stands out from other commands that God has issued. For example, he told Adam and Eve not to eat a fruit. He told Noah to build a boat. He told Abraham to move to the promised land. Now he's telling Abraham to kill his own son. That's very different because this is taking a human's life, which is against the 10 Commandments. I have some questions about this parsha. My first one is, why would God want to know if Abraham feared them? First, I thought that God wanted to know because they wanted to use fear to lead Abraham. But then I realized how wrong that sounded, and people shouldn't be scared into doing things. I believe that Abraham should have resisted God and recognized how he was being led through fear. He already resisted God with Sodom and Gomorrah when he negotiated with them not to destroy the city. Tradition has a lot to say about this. The 13th century Rabbi Nachmanides, known as the Ramban, thinks that before this, Abraham's fear of God was not yet developed, but then his fear became known and God rewarded him for that. He says, quote, "At first, Avram's fear was latent. It had not yet emerged into actuality by the means of this great deed, and his merit became complete and his reward was full from God, the God of Israel." That does not sound right to me. I think that God would not want Abraham to fear him because, once again, I do not think that people should be scared into doing things. I also read some more modern commentaries. In The Binding of Isaac, via 5775, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs says that the purpose of the test was not for God to know if Abraham feared him, it was to establish and show everyone the fear of God. Again, that does not really sound right to me. I do not think people should be afraid of God, and I do not think God wanted that. Another commentator, Sidney Nestow, discusses how some values are worth sacrificing for and some are not. He also points out how Abraham suppressed his love for Isaac and offered him for the greater good, and he should be praised for that. I disagree with this. As I said again, I believe Abraham should have at least tried to resist. My next question, maybe the most obvious one, is, did Abraham pass God's test? I believe this is an important question because the entire Akedah revolves around the fact that God tested Abraham. It does not actually clarify in the Torah whether or not Abraham passed. What it does say is God tested Abraham, and then when Abraham is about to sacrifice Isaac, God calls out and says, quote, "By myself I swear, says the Eternal One, that because you did this thing and did not withhold your son, your only one, I will bless you greatly, and your descendants shall take possession of the gates of their foes." That sounds like winning. I mean, God said to offer Isaac, and that is what he did, and then he got a reward. But then I realized that no God would ask someone to do something so backwards, like sacrificing your child. So the next question would be, why did God ask Abraham to sacrifice Isaac? My answer is that it is part of the test. I do not believe that God would actually let Abraham go through sacrificing his son. Nechama Goldman Barash, a teacher at the Pardes Institute, wrote a commentary that breaks from the traditional interpretations and do not question God's motives. She believes that while Abraham passed the test, he did not do what God ideally wanted, and this impacts their relationship for the rest of Abraham's life. Some evidence of this is that God never speaks to Abraham directly after the Akedah. Barash believes that Abraham should have, at the very least, made a plea for Isaac's life. I partially agree with this. God wanted Abraham to resist, and he did not. But he still got a partial pass, which impacts their relationship forever. I believe where Barash and I differ is where she believes that he should only make a plea, and I believe he should have outright refused. Barash's break with the traditional way of understanding the Akedah is very significant because it brings a different way of thinking to the table. The reason why this is so significant is because it could change the moral lesson of the Akedah from following God's commands without question to thinking before you obey. My final question is, why did Abraham actually go through with sacrificing Isaac, no questions asked? We see that Abraham is actually prepared to sacrifice Isaac, and he does not once question God. I also doubt that Abraham was enthusiastic about sacrificing Isaac. This just drives the question. Why didn't Abraham question God? We are Abraham every day. People ask us to do things, and we can choose to blindly follow or to ask why. Today, many leaders tell us to do things with little reason, and we can either follow it or question it. When a corrupt and abusive leader tells us to do something that is wrong, it is easy, even natural, for us to resist. An example of this today is our president telling us not to wear a mask. But it is also important to resist even trusted and respected leaders who may make an error in judgment, and to do so respectfully but with conviction. We can choose to follow this blindly or to question it to see if it's a good idea. There's a lot to learn from this. We should definitely not blindly follow orders from others, but we should not question in a disrespectful way. I think the main lesson that I learned from this, becoming a Jewish adult, is that we should not fear to question orders, even when, or perhaps especially, when they come from the powerful. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom and Yasher Koach. Wait, you don't get to sit down yet. I hope you won't refuse that. Your parents have a blessing to give you.
Really close, that's all. Really close to your mouth.
Zev, I am and will always be proud of you. Like it was yesterday, I can see you taking your first breath with determination and gusto. You seem to be declaring yourself in no uncertain terms and making it known that you were ready to get going pronto. Your dad and I often come back to this moment as we muse over the blend of pluck, intensity, and wit with which you propel yourself through life. The COVID-19 pandemic has meant setting aside many of the original ideas we had for celebrating today. We are left with the barest, most essential elements. In this winnowing, we have had to let go of the unique and fortifying beauty that is an ingathering of family, friends, and congregation. As we revised plans, I wondered how you would respond. Stretched out before you for many months of virtual tutoring and study sessions, along with more time on your own every day for practice. Eventually, you would be asked to undertake textual analysis and devar writing. You could easily have concluded that yours was an all work and no fun bar mitzvah. I worried how to navigate your disappointment and ours without losing sight of what we are called to do. You as a bar mitzvah and we as your parents. My concern was wholly misplaced. Along with the unavoidable sadness, there has been bittersweet joy. It is in seeing you meet the challenge of becoming bar mitzvah. With seriousness and integrity. The joy is in observing you embrace your responsibility to yourself and to your community. To watch you dig in and wrestle with Judaism. To make it your own and to make yourself a part of it. You have made a strong and beautiful transition into Jewish adulthood. We will continue to live with the COVID-19 pandemic. We will also continue to live in a country in deep and profound conflict. Our road forward is long and filled with uncertainty.
knowing what is right and doing what is right, even when it seems impossible or impossibly hard, has never been more important. Your Devar suggests the first step forward begins with formulating and struggling with key questions. My wish for you, Zev, is that you will continue on the path you have set for yourself, leading up to and after your bar mitzvah. I believe that you will. Mazel tov.
This is quite an experience for you, Zev. Pandemic, many months of quarantine, lots of time with your family, lots. Online school, a dynamic election process, and all the while, you have been working very hard to prepare for this moment to be shared virtually with family and friends. I can only imagine what your experience is. Through all of it, you have continued to be focused, to adapt, to work hard, and to relieve the tedium with impressive displays of comic timing and, usually when you think no one is watching, acts of true compassion toward friends and family members. In all of this, you've truly acted on your own advice that you've just eloquently delivered in your Devar, to question authority while still showing proper respect, and to face adversity with focus, determination, and in your case, a healthy dose of shtick. This has been an experience upon which you will be able to draw in the future. When times are good, you can reach into your reserves of COVID-era resolve to keep you centered. And when they are not as good, you will be more prepared, having lived through this time. I think it also meaningful that you've lived through this while preparing for your bar mitzvah. You've had to struggle with big issues every day while at the same time working to add your experience to that of the Jewish communities of the past and puzzle over how they fit together. Something that you express very clearly in your Devar, in your survey of commentators to which you add yourself, joining in the work of making sense of the world in light of our traditions. My wish for you is that you continue to do so in the future, and that you continue to develop your many good qualities as you grow into adulthood. You have already taken the first steps showing great power, control, and compassion. May you continue along this path. Mazal tov.
Amen. Thank you both. You can give him a hug.
Congratulations.
You can do whatever he'll let you do. And I'm going to give him a blessing now as well. Oh, and this gift. I'm live. So, just one of the many things that is different from usual is we do not have a member of the board here to gift you with this Tanakh. So I am doing it on behalf of the community. Thank you for your wrestling, for your teaching, and I hope you will continue to do that wrestling. You can leave it right, we'll turn it right side up and leave it here for now. Come join me in front of the ark for your blessing. So, you were taken very early in this process with the story of the Akedah, and so sure that this was what you wanted to focus on, so clear that the whole story needed to be explored that you wound up chanting far more verses of Torah than we typically expect of our B'nai Mitzvah, because you wanted to chant the whole story. And as we wrestled with this story together, there were questions that you fundamentally could not come to a satisfying answer about. This question of what does it mean to fear? What does it mean to act on fear? What does it mean when one entity tries to instill fear in another? And I want to really honor that your resistance to coming up with easy answers to those questions, to accepting easy answers to those questions. And I want to bless you that you continue to have this ability to articulate difficult questions that might not have answers and let them stay with us as uncomfortable as they are. I have another blessing for you, Zev, that's a larger aspiration for the world that you live in. We discussed, you were really not taken with Sidney Nestle's commentary and other commentaries like his that suggest that maybe there's a larger mystery that we don't understand to God's demand of Avraham. And there's many commentaries that talk about how, Avraham and God had this relationship that Avraham just fully trusted that no matter what words God was saying about taking Isaac to the mountain, things would turn out okay. And you were so not buying those commentaries. And it occurs to me that that is a reflection of the world that you live in. It is no surprise that given the corrupt leadership in our world right now, it would be impossible to buy a commentary of a wise person profoundly trusting that their leader means well and that their leader will not ask something of them that would damage their children and their future. And so I want to bless you, and I want to bless all of us, that as you grow up, as our situation on this planet continues to evolve, you may someday find a leader so inspiring that you begin to understand maybe what Avraham felt and why Avraham may have been willing to trust in Hashem, even when Hashem said, bring Yitzchak to the mountain. I want to bless you that someday you should feel that hope and that trust in our leadership, and I know that day is a long way off. In the meantime, I bless you that you should continue bringing your critical thinking, your questions, your righteous sense of what needs to be done, and that you keep blessing our community with that. Today, we honor you as a Jewish adult, and that means this is a beginning and not an end. We expect to see you around more. We hope you will be a madrich in our religious school. We hope you will help make minyan or chant Torah for us at future services if we need you to, and that you will find your own way through Jewish community. Thank you for what you have done today. And I'm going to close my remarks with the ancient words of blessing that our ancestors received from the priests and parents have passed to their children, and I will, from a 6 feet of social distance, offer them to you today. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's presence shine on you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom. May God's presence be lifted for you and lift you and give you wholeness and peace. I invite your family back to the Bima for the service of returning the Sefer Torah to the Ark. Maybe one of you can bring a Sidur or two. Page 433. Please stand as you are able as the Sefer Torah is lifted. Do you want to hand that to Eitan? Got it? And let's, Catherine, will you stand with him so he can see the words he's saying?
Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado. Ha'eretz v'shamayim v'yaren keren le'amo tehila lecho chasitav livnei Yisrael am kirovo
Page 441.
Wait. Elohim ki lemachazikim ha v'tom cheya meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha Shalom, Hashivenu Adonai, Elecha Nashuva, Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu,
You may be seated, except for Zev. Page 443. Oh, yes, that would be great.
Yahalel.
Sorry, 443. You did that part already.
Ein Keloheinu,
Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kamalkeinu, Ein Kamoshienu, Mikeloheinu, Mikadonenu, Mikamalkeinu, Mikamoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Page 445. Please stand as you are able as we open the ark for the last time for Aleinu. Aleinu is the seal of our intentions of the service. It says it is Aleinu, up to us to praise, up to us to manifest our vision of the world as it should be. So I invite you to share. This will be my last discussion question, so to speak. Just a glimpse of the world you envision, the world as it should be. What is it, Aleinu, to manifest in the world?
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'tet gibula le'otzer v'reshit, shenatan lanu Torah temet, v'chaye olam natata betochenu, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Noter Shamayim ve'yosed haaretz, u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim ima'o, ushkim natuzo, begove meromim, Hu Eloheinu Einod, Emet Malkeinu Efezulato, Kakatu Ve'atorato, Ve'adata Hayom Ve'hashivoto, El Levavecha, Ki Adonai Hu HaElohim, Bashamayim Mima'o, Ve'al haaretz מזרחת עינות. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. Before we close our service, we take a moment to recall our loved ones who have died at this season in years past, or those whom death has recently taken from us. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 451. It does not actually mention death. It does not mention grief, but it is a hymn of praise for the holiness that imbues the whole world, holiness that perhaps we are aware of because of what our loved ones have taught us, how our loved ones have lived, and what they have left us. So we turn to Mourner's Kaddish. We recall those for whom we honor their yahrzeits this week, the anniversaries of their deaths. Tamara Blum, Harriet Fenig, Virginia Proctor, Irene Goldstein, Marvin Holland, Dorothy Marker, Seidel Siegel, Arthur Weissman, Leo Siegel, Edward Becker, Gladys Melnick, Gloria Rickles Pergamit, Marty Barrer, Lorraine Ritten, Joseph Margolin, and Edward Matras. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be for blessing. We also announce with sadness the passing of Betty Argish at the beginning of the week and extend our condolences to Richard Argish, her son. And we note with sadness the passing of Sandro Cohen, the brother of our member Joseph Cohen, and extend our condolences to Joe. We'll be having a brief Shiva Minyan for him this Sunday. If you are saying Kaddish for anyone I did not name, I encourage you to share their name in the chat. And if you're saying Kaddish at all, I invite you to rise for Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma Divra Chirute Ve'amlich Malchute B'chayechon uvyomechon Uvchaye techol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevarach leolam ulealmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal Shemei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Useh shalom b'imromav uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony above make peace for us and for all Israel and for all who dwell on earth. May all mourners be comforted. May the memories of those we have named and those we are holding in our hearts be for blessing. Amen. Before our final song, a few announcements. Tomorrow is the Global Day of Jewish Learning, and the theme this year is human dignity. At 2 p.m., you can join me and other Reconstructionist rabbis from throughout the Pacific Northwest in a conversation about human dignity in Jewish text via Zoom. Pre-registration is required. The link is in TBI's e-news and available on our website. Additionally, starting tomorrow morning, you can watch a video available on this same YouTube channel highlighting the artistic offerings by members of the TBI community, their interpretations of what human dignity means to them. Sunday afternoon, again tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m., TBI members are invited to attend a meeting to provide input about the preschool. Pre-registration is not required. For information, contact Kara Schnoes, and you can find the link in Wednesday's e-news and on our website. Thursdays at noon, join me for a discussion of the weekly Torah portion via Zoom. Our Talmud Torah, our religious school, would like to add to its teaching staff. You do not have to be a professional educator to teach, and it is a minimal time commitment. If you work well with children or teenagers, this could be a great opportunity. Again, see the e-news. November 22nd at 4 p.m., please join me for our Daf Yomi Siyum Eruvin. We began studying the Talmud from the very first tractate back in January. It's a 7.5-year process, and this will be a celebration of the completion of the third tractate, Eruvin, which deals with how do we define space, how do we define home, what is in, what is out. Please contact me if you have been studying and would be willing to share a few reflections on your studies, but our celebration is open to all, and all are encouraged to attend whether you've been studying or not. Do we want to announce the congregational meeting? The congregational meeting, all members, please join us Thursday evening, November 19th, less than 2 weeks from now, for some business and some community connecting and updates from our various committees. You'll be receiving a link and formal invitation very soon. Community Havdalah is tonight at 6:10 p.m. You can join me to say goodbye to Shabbat and sing a few songs welcoming in the new week. Next Friday, November 13th, we will have our second Friday early Shabbat service on YouTube at 6:30 p.m. There will be no regular 7:30 service, just an early service at 6:30 p.m. And Saturday, November 14th, Torah study will be at 8:30 a.m. And at 9:30 a.m., we will have our services that include Gabriel Walters Warren called to the Torah as Bar Mitzvah. Same bat YouTube channel. Mazel Tov to the Gallagher Wacks family. Mazel Tov to all of you who love the Gallagher Wacks family, being here to support them today. Zev, I know that this is one of many ways that as a Jewish adult you will continue coming to terms with how reality does not necessarily always match with our aspirations of what something could be. So too with this day. But we are very proud of you, and we are very grateful that you have led us in this service today. And we hope that you will come back and do it again, maybe sometime when we can celebrate with you with a bigger crowd. So we will close on page 459 with Adon Olam. And I'm going to lead us in Joey Weisenberg's Americana tune, knowing that many of us have America on our minds today. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra le'et nasa b'chefzo kol Azai melech shemo nikra, Adon olam, asher malach, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, le'et nasa, v'chefzo kol, Azai melech shemo nikra. Ve'acharei kichlot hakol, levado yimloch nora, v'hu haya, v'hu hoveh, v'hu yihyeh v'tifara, v'hu echad, ve'ein sheni, lehamshilo, lehachbira, beli reshit, beli tachlit, v'lo ha'oz, v'hamisra. Adon olam asher malach, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, le'et nasa, v'chefzo kol, azai melech shemo nikra. V'hu eli v'chai goali, v'tzur chevli b'yet zara, v'hu nisi umanos li, menat kosi b'yom ekra, v'yado avkid ruchi, b'et ishan v'ya'ira, ve'im ruchi gevihati, Adonai li, ve'lo ira. Adon olam asher malach, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, le'et nasa, v'chefzo kol, azai melech shemo nikra, Adon olam. Mazel tov. Shabbat shalom.